It is 8:05 p.m. on Friday, February 9th, 2024. This is CptWoozle, back again. I was out Wednesday. I was really tired and I just decided to crash and stay crashed. I'm feeling a little bit drained this week. Just a little bit drained in terms of just inspiration at this particular point. Like, I have ideas, but they're all kind of boring. So I'm gonna work on a couple projects here, or at least lay the groundwork for a couple projects, and then kind of go from there. I've been playing around with a couple different things: C#, some React. I've been kind of dodging the bullet on Next.js and some of the new React front ends. And I think it's time that I kind of dive into some of those. I kind of did a brief tutorial last time on using clean code, and yeah, go ahead and install Docker for. I wonder if there's a Docker for Factor. Let's take a look. Plugins. So I don't know what today will entail. I'm not sure why we have node support in Rider. Kubernetes, neat. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to build the groundwork for an app that I'm working on. The back end is going to be in C#, and I'll probably look at exploring Next.js on the front end. It'll be between Next.js and one of the others. Let's take a look. Just because React is yeah, let's look. And so it looks like people are kind of leaning towards a couple different approaches these days. You have Next.js, you have Remix, you have Gatsby. I wonder what the difference is between them. Let's take a look. Remix versus Gatsby versus Next. And I mean, there are differences. I don't know if one's right or wrong. Server-side rendering and client-side rendering. I think I might like Remix. Data from multiple sources. I don't know. Let's take a look. Because I don't need to use GraphQL. I know it's all cool kids want to use it, but I don't necessarily know if I need this. Gatsby store from any REST resolve options. I'll have to take a look. I haven't actually played around with Gatsby at all. There's also C#, which is what I'm using. I know everyone seems to be in love with Node, but there are a couple things that I'm not necessarily in love with. And it comes down to performance. And I know everyone's going to potentially bring up like Rust. So, but C# can run on anything. I don't really feel that. I don't really feel that strongly about it. I feel pretty confident in both. I could always poke at Python, but I wanted to dive into some Rust because it seems like it's really, really, really fast. And I wanted to poke at Bun. With minimal API, the setup, MacBook Pro. See, I like the fact that C# seems to handle a lot of requests per second, and that it has a lower memory usage than C#. I'm sorry, lower memory usage than Node. I could also just go with Go, but I don't know Go. Suppose I could learn it. Let's take a look. So it looks like there is Go. It looks like it's pretty fast. Let's see if there's an IDE for Go. Let's take a look at that. Oh, there is. Yeah. There's an IDE for Go. So let's take a look at some tutorials. I usually like looking at resources. But now that we have that, yeah, it looks like Go's pretty fast. What I want to look at is performance, because what I want to build is something feels lighter and leaner, abstract and then magic. Yeah, I don't know. So this is kind of what people talk about, that it feels lighter. But I don't know. I don't feel that strongly one way. And again, Rust seems like it's pretty good. I don't know. Using statements are an abomination. People hate Visual Studio. Like, it seems like it's a weird hate on C# and Microsoft rather than that, but I don't know. They both have strong typing and garbage collection. I don't know if I feel that strongly one way or the other about them. I think I want to try. But I haven't played around with it. I guess I could start. Let's see. Well, let's see. Let's take a look at some of it. So, yeah, that's true. A typical C# will be much larger and contain more boilerplate compared to this. I see. You can use parallel invoke and untroublesome. Huh. Recently added to Golang, but they were not mature. You cannot use generics without instantiation, which limits your options. Functionalities that are easily achievable with generics in other languages may require workarounds in Go. But I've come to kind of appreciate generics, so I don't know if I would lack of built-in higher order functions. If you're used to using link in C# or streams in Java, which use lazy iterators to filter and process, you could write functions like these to go using closures. In most cases, the performance and complexity overhead of these custom outweigh the benefit. But I think I get it. I can see the appeal of Go. I don't know. I don't know if I'm in love with Go. I think I'm going to stick to C# for my back end. I want to look at comparisons in terms of performance. Let's take a look. First, and I think it'll probably be between Next and Remix. I want to take a look at performance though. And I don't know if there's a good way to, and I don't want to be hip, tied to the hip to Vercel. I don't know. Let's take a look. Next is use a file-based routing system where each file in the pages directory becomes a route. For example, if you have a file called index.js in the pages directory, it will be mapped to the /route. So to create a new route in Next.js, simply create a new file in the pages directory. That's fine. Data loading and fetching. Fetch data depending upon your needs. For example, you can use get server-side props to fetch data on the server and render it on the server. For dynamic data, it needs to be updated frequently. I wonder how you would do Next.js with C# backend. Whether you're using Next with a RESTful backend or a RESTful backend in .NET, you'll still want to use for routing. Now, that's not the question. I'm not going to route in C#. You will still have to write a client to talk to your .NET. People tend to stay away from this because serverless function that you can write using JS or TS. I don't know. Next.js, compiled based API written in C#, Postgres, entity framework, cool. Caching. Then is used as a proxy. I see. I've used in small projects in one big production environment, some basic marketing sites within the past 2 years. Where Next.js excels is in the examples folder and community. For most use cases, you will find an example that does the job before hitting up the community. I roll with a lot less third-party libraries as most general features come with it. Router, image compression, dynamic import, basic backend. I can create a marketing site with several. Yeah, but I want to use C# knowing scalability and complexity of what I'm doing, though you can totally build it with Node. I'm just not interested in it. But I do enjoy the performance. So let's take a look at this article. I've heard of Next.js. If this is not really, web page does not require interactive server with dynamic APIs. Why Node cannot be produced at build time. This includes leveraging server-side rendering or other Next.js features listed on static. In those cases, there's no way to render the web app server-side at request time and then serve the final contents to the client. Node is the technology that enables running the same JavaScript or portions of it. So a lot can be done with fully static content. Recall for a moment that when you install an app on your mobile app, a static page is installed on your device. A statically exported Next.js app isn't much different. There's one additional concern we need to deal with, that is dynamic routes. Because the following pages, when you statically export it to HTML using next export, the exported output containing the following entry points, HTML files, When a browser, the server expected to return the contents. Similarly, requests supposed to return were served requests for by design. The client will render the pages, even though the URL bar will say post, and it will not rehydrate the contents that were expected. SSG safe rehydration. Beware of an important caveat with this approach. Next.js expects, reasonably so, that the first render of the page JavaScript should produce the exact same tree as is produced statistically. This poses a challenge when dynamic content is to be rendered for dynamic routes. Imagine, for example, that the page contents will include an h1 tag with contents that include a parameter specified via dynamic route. You must be careful to ensure the tree is consistent with the statically generated contents on first render. Luckily, this is easy to achieve by creating a state variable that's updated on mount with useEffect. Alright. How do we ensure the right contents are served? It's quite simple. We just need the web server to understand that the route should map to the statically generated files. Recapping the previous example, No, I didn't randomly pick. I happen to work for Microsoft, where we use extensively for high scale mission critical web services that power multi-billion-dollar websites. It's about time. All right, cool. Let's take a look. The package works by transforming the statically compiled Next.js output directory structure. Huh? All right. Host a statically exported. I don't actually know if I want to host it. What I want to do is it any faster? I guess it is. And we can on the other hand, entire apps can be built without needing SSR. In those cases, the additional capabilities. Let's take a look. Let's look at next with C# API. I can't do the server-side rendering then. It sounds like. Make API calls directly from the client. Security of the API credentials, if applicable, and cause issues with the server being called. Set up API that would facilitate the call and response on the back end. This is great because it's a server-side call, thus providing additional security. Cores can be largely managed through a whitelist. Yeah. It's not a cores question. Let's take a look. I need to host both of them on the same website. You need to rewrite config for server-side rendering. This looks like a pain. It's great for front-end. Maybe I should just go to Angular. Let's look at Angular versus React performance. Let's look at the performance between them. Yeah, I know what they are, but I want to look at Angular execute and browser and renders I see. Impact. Let's take a look. Performance 79, 82, 81. So it looks like React and Vue are faster. React takes the first place to improve performance. Lower lack of expertise in development teams. For proof tech stack. React Native. Oh, there's a Vue Native. Oh, what's this? Oh, what is this? Has been and no longer maintained. Nope, it's gone. Vue Native is gone. And native script. Okay. Does it allow you to use Vue.js to craft your mobile applications? Huh. Vue Native, huh? Native progressive with Vue and oh, it's Ionic. All right. So I don't know. I don't feel particular love for any of it. I don't know. I am not in love with Next.js, but I don't know if I want to use. Well, I didn't dive into Remix much. Let's take a look. Let's look at React Remix with C# API. Let's take a look at that. Though I know a lot of people, at least on the .NET side, it's creating this weird divide. I guess everyone wants options these days where they can kind of pick a ton of different things, but there's just so much variation these days. You've React by itself, then you have Next, then you have Remix, and you have Gatsby, and then they're really tightly coupling themselves together, which I guess is fine, but like, I thought kind of the purpose of all of this was for everyone to kind of do their own thing, and it feels like there's some weird tightly coupling going on. Let's take a look. All right, that's a really short article. Let's look at React Remix, see what the documentation has to say. I'm just curious. Let's do a quick start and read through. I mean, it looks fine. Tutorial. Yeah, I mean, I guess it looks fine. I don't know. I must admit that I'm not, like I said, I'm not in love with the connection of Node and Next. I really want to be able to use a different backend. Let me see what else I can find. Let's see. Let's look at Next.js with .NET Core. Yeah, let's look at this. I picked Vue in 3 days. Fell in love with it, and in 2 weeks I was a Jedi in Vue. Oh, a Jedi in Vue. All right. Yeah. The React is still the most popular. It's plain React. So, is whether SEO is important. If it is, then pre-builds the React pages in advance. I don't know. I don't know. Let's take a look. SSR until you've gained some experience and you're pretty comfortable with coding it in general. Like is done by, it's really an optimization. It's mainly used by people making public faces. Read about the internal loading speed of their app because they get penalized in Google search results if it's too low. And you want to use Next to run it in Node. Oh yeah. It was easy as the core API. Um, let's take a look. Back end for front end. Essentially just an API. SptWoozle is a service for a particular front end. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I feel strongly enough. I wanted the performance boost of, let's take a look. C# versus Node API performance. So when I look at there's some, is it hash node? No. There's a site out here. Is it TechMagic? No. There's a site. Let's see. It might be .NET versus Node. There's a site out here that compares performance and scalability, and I really liked how it laid things out. Again, it's not for everyone, and I like Node, but I also think that I want to build something where the performance down the road doesn't require as much scaling. It still needs to be scalable, but not as much. So there was latency performance. Yeah. But I think Fastify was the fastest one. Somebody had built like a super fast JavaScript piece that was really nice. And Rust was really up there in terms of speed. I just don't know where that list is. I just looked at it earlier today too. Looks like somebody's done some tests though. And here we go. So the differences between language. I wrote a load tester which hit each API's method with 1 million requests. Go seemed like it was the fastest. Node was currently the slowest. Rust, and then .NET. So Go and Rust, and I like Go, but it doesn't have some of the functionalities that make development fast, such as your link and the higher level functions. But I don't know if you always need those. I think to make my development process easier, I'm going to probably start. I think it's okay to start there, and I think what I'm going to lean towards is .NET for my back end. But I want to look at something Angular, because ultimately though I know people are in love with Vue, I think the question that I'm looking at is, if I'm ever going to scale this out, I have to find other people who are in similar fields. And so I know that I can find C# developers. There's a ton of Node developers out there. There's always, I think, the weird discussion for people is when you're first building something, what do you pick? And I don't know, because I can go with any and feel perfectly comfortable. Offers multiple built-in mechanisms, making it heavy and taking some more time, which supports an additional pillar in accelerating. I think that I might use Vue for mine, and I think, I don't know. I think I can go with Vue. I think with .NET, I think I'll go with Vue for my front end, and I think I'll stick with C# for my back end. It just depends on an API. It's the Vue app should not know. Yeah, the build a Vue. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play around with Vue. What's the average or the standard Vue folder structure? So just because I haven't played around with Vue, but let's maybe build something in Vue. So there you have your main Vue, your standard file structure, and I wonder. Let's look at Vue with auth 0 as well. It looks like you can just use your standard SDK. Yeah, so let's go along. Let's build our app. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and build the pieces of our app, or start. Let's do this. Let's go to our real estate folder. Let's start our backend. I am a big fan of backend first. Some people like doing front end first, but I'm a backend first person, and it's probably because at the end of the day, I feel comfortable making my API, or at least the start of my API, and kind of going from there. Now, I kind of laid out previously what I was going to do, and I like using the clean architecture approach that you see here. So you have your solution, your common, your application, your domain, your infrastructure, and then your tests. So I can start laying out the API pieces, and then start diving into the Vue pieces. Now, I kind of laid all this out before, so let's kind of start. I kind of like breaking my projects in the back end and front end. So let's make our backend directory. But I guess we could call it API. I just don't want to confuse the folder, so we'll call it the real estate API. And let's do real estate API. And let's go ahead and build our pieces here. So we kind of have our list of commands here. We'll go ahead and open up a new window. We'll actually use Notepad++. Why not? Actually, we'll use Notepad. Yeah, we'll use Notepad. Let's don't save it. Where's my Notepad? Come on. There we go. So let's create some of our base pieces and go from there. So our solution is going to be called real estate API. So that's going to be that. And then let's build all of the class libraries. So we'll have all those. Real estate API, real estate API, real estate API, real estate. So that gives us our API. Oh, it doesn't give us our API. Wait, hold on. Almost forgot about that. So there's real estate API.API, application common domain and infrastructure. So this will give us our basic structure for that. And then let's create, add all the projects to the solution. So it'll look like this: add API, application, common domain, and infrastructure. So that should do that. And we can then link everything together. So let's start off with that. Let's create our new solution over here. Let's make you a bit bigger. Let's create our API folder. Cool. And let's create the rest. Yeah, go ahead and paste them. Paste, paste, paste. Cool. And then let's add in our solutions. Add all these projects to the solution. Paste away. Cool, cool, cool. There's our base structure. So let's go ahead and add references as we need to. Let's go to the API folder and let's add references to the common, the application, and the infrastructure. Yep. And then let's go up a directory and let's go to our infrastructure project tab and let's add references to think we need a reference to the application so the infrastructure can interact with common. I think infrastructure needs access to domain. And I think it doesn't need, yes, it does need access to application. So on our application there, we'll keep our DTOs. So it does need access to that. But then application needs access to infrastructure and domain. Because domain is where we're going to keep our interfaces. And then it needs access to infrastructure. Because I can spell today. And where am I on application? Yeah. And you need access to common. So there we go. And I'm going to use Postgres for right now. So our infrastructure folder needs access to Windy Framework. And there's a circular dependency. I think I ran into this before. .NET add package. There's a circular dependency on application. I think I ran into this before. And what I had to do was I had to remove the dependency. So let's go ahead and open up our project in Rider. I'm all JetBrains over here, all JetBrains. Let's open this up in Rider. And let's take a look. Trust and open. I have a dependency that I need to get rid of. Dependencies. Let's take a look. Edit our CS proj. Yeah, let's get rid of access to infrastructure, which is weird because we need it. But now that that's done, there's our framework core, our design, and our NuGet package. I'm sorry, not Postgres package for infrastructure. I'm not going to add in our unit tests just yet. And I think I'm okay for right there. So let's come back over here to Rider. Let's zoom in a little bit so people can see. We'll kill you. We'll kill you. These are just like the default classes that come with each of them. And we'll kind of lay out the folder structure. I don't need you. Do need the app settings. We'll kind of lay out some of the folder structure here so people can potentially see. In our API, we're going to add a directory for controllers. We're going to add a directory for... I don't think there's anything else. I'm not serving any static files here. So I will do application next. So for our application layer, we're going to have interfaces. On our application layer, we're going to have... I don't have any models just yet. I put those in common, but we will have DTOs. And we will have services. And we will have mappings. Directory mappings. Which means that we will need on our application, excuse me, we will need NuGet. Where are you, NuGet? There it is. Manage NuGet packages. We will use AutoMapper because we can. Yeah, we'll use AutoMapper. Cool. So we'll have our AutoMapper. We'll keep our interfaces here, our services here. We might have some helpers. On the domain level, I don't have any helpers yet, so I may ultimately get rid of common, but we don't have any yet. On the domain level, we have our entities. We'll keep our entities that we're going to save into the database. We'll have our interfaces here. We'll have... I think that's it. I don't really have much else. There could be enums, but I don't have any at the moment that I can think of off the top of my head for my particular structure. And in my infrastructure, we'll have a data layer. And inside of data, we'll have a couple different directories. We'll have... we'll just have migrations for right now. And inside data, we'll keep our main file, which is going to be, I'm going to call it app db context. Context. There we go. And anything else? Services. In our main, yeah, services. And I don't really have anything right now, so we'll just do repositories. Yeah, repositories. So the idea being that we want to keep things kind of separated. So the application layer should never directly access the database. That's going to be handled by the infrastructure layer. The infrastructure layer will directly access the database. The interfaces for it will be kept in the domain level. And then the interfaces for the application will be kept here on the application level. So that's kind of the start of things. Now I do have another project. I don't know. Open That's weird. Let me go and find this. Looks like the thing that I was working on moved. Weird. Not a thing, but let's go and take a look. Yeah, no, it's still there. That's really weird. So I'm going to use this one as kind of a template. Now, in this particular instance, for this particular app, I don't really have much of a user at the moment. Yeah, I don't really have much of a user. I do want to know whether they've logged in before or not. So we'll start off with a basic user in my particular instance. We'll create a new file. We'll call it user. Public class user. This is going to be the key. And yeah, we'll just keep the ID here. Get sorry. Public string ID get and set. Again, I do want to play around with Go at one point. Public bool has logged in before. We'll do a get then a set, and to kind of make it happy, we will add annotations, import the missing reference, and we'll give it a default value equals string.empty. So it is less unhappy about that. And then what do we want to do? I don't have any enums at the moment. I do have settings. I forgot about those. Data, directory, configuration. If I can remember how to spell it, because I never do. Now in my particular instance, I'm going to use auth0. So I'm going to make an auth0 settings.cs. And I already have something created for the most part. So I'll just use what I have already. Now I don't think you actually need I don't think you actually need the client secret. You just need audience and domain. No need for the client ID. So there's our auth0 settings. And then I don't have any migrations yet. Let's go ahead and create our general app DB context. So one, it has to be a DB context. So it will require that. And in our particular instance, we're going to do a public DB set. We're going to bring in our user to our users. Get set. No. I question this. I question this. Yeah. I question this. It will go away once we start to initialize. But I question this. Now in my particular instance, what else are we gonna do here? Oh, we can do a couple other things. So when a person first logs in, and I've created similar things before, there is going to be a user repository that will do the following. The user repository will handle when the user's first logs in, and that's it. I generally don't need the other information. Auth0 is going to provide me the email address. I don't know if there's any other information that I really want to keep off the top of my head, but I can always change this down the road. So let's go ahead and create our user repository class. It's going to be user repository.cs, and we need to create our interface for it. We'll grab user repository and a class interface. It's going to be user repository. It's an interface, and it's going to implement just one thing. Task. It's going to be called handle first time login. And I usually use this to just keep track of when a person first logs in. Usually so there's, I guess, a couple different ways that you can approach this. Oftentimes there are a series of items that you'll want a user to have, and so that they can keep track of things. And if a user doesn't have them, then in the other aspects of your code, you have to compensate for, hey, does this thing exist? If not, create it. So you can either handle it so that it's there, and create it when the user first logs in, or not. So I'm going to create it when the user first logs in rather than create it later. I often find that in terms of interfaces, it's easier to create use your interfaces kind of like your blueprint, because then you can just copy from here. Make sure that you add in user repository. And again, there's two approaches for this. So I'm going to bring in my app DB context as context. But then, as I was saying, all you can have to do is do public async, and you can just copy and paste. Now, in my particular instance, I would just then do a call to find our user. So it would be var user equals app. Nope. Context.users find async user ID. So we'll find the user first, and we should await this. We'll find the user first, and if the user is null, we'll go ahead and create the user. And we'll pass in the ID. It's going to be equal to user ID, and has logged in before, set to now true. And then context.users.add our user. If they have, now again, there might be some additional logic, like we'll just put a note down here to do create other first login rows. And again, this is, for instance, if you had, like, let's say a user profile that you wanted to create, you could sit down and be like, oh, create the initial user profile record here. That way, when you go to do any user profile adjustments later, you can simply say, hey, just go find the record for the user and update it, rather than doing a check of, hey, does it exist? No. Okay, create it, then do the change. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Some people prefer to do it one way. I don't feel that strongly about it. But I like this way. You know, that's, then we'll do an else if. And I think there might be an easier way to do this. So if the user's logged on, we can also do a check to see. So let's say the person's logged in before, but we haven't recorded it for some reason. I don't know why that would happen. We're going to go ahead and change it to user has logged in before equals true. Context.users.update user, and then again we'll do the same to do that we have up here. Create other first login rows, and any other tables that we want to, and finally we'll do an await for context.save changes async. This should give us our base piece for when a user logs in for the first time. There's a bunch of extra stuff in here that we don't need. So let's go ahead and clean up all of this stuff. Close them. So let's do a couple of things. One, we don't have it set up just yet, but let's go ahead and add in our endpoints explorer. Nope. Let's add in our database connection here. So we have our builder already set. We'll do builder.services.add db context, add db context, and ours is already set, so we called it app db context. We're gonna set up a couple of options. Now there are more options. Mine is fairly simple. We'll say options.use in PG-SQL. Yep, that's what we're using. And we have a configuration that we're going to use. We're going to get the connection string from there. And I just we'll call it real estate connection. Now that's mine. I haven't created it yet, but now ultimately I will add in some auth settings at one point, but I don't need that yet. We will be using AutoMapper, so knowing that, we're going to say builder.services.add auto. There it is. Add AutoMapper type of. And I don't have a mapping profile yet. I should create one. Yeah, let's go ahead and at least create the container for it. Where are you at? Yeah, there we are. So under our mappings, let's create our mapping profile. Class mapping profile. I can spell this right. You're going to be of type profile. And I don't have anything yet. Public mapping profile. Yeah, I don't have anything just yet. I just nothing. I got nothing. But I will one point I will have it. Now we can import our missing reference, and there's our mapping profile. Voila. Now we would also add in at this particular point our repository. And now I'm just commenting this here. You wouldn't necessarily need to do this. I think for other people, though, it might come in handy. We're going to add scoped, and we're going to bring in our user repository and our user repository. Voila. I will add in our JWT token later. I don't need you. Don't need no summaries. I don't need my app.get map. Don't need none of this. With open API. Nope. 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 I do want to add in a couple different things. So I'm going to have it so that it checks for a bad request. And let's see. What else do I want to put in here? I want to have it check for model state. And I had mentioned this before in my tutorial that you can have it check for model state. To do that, let's do this. And if you just wanted to add in controllers, you would say add controllers. But we actually are going to do some additional things. So for each controller, what we want to do is we want to configure API behavior options. And this is, again, I'm configuring mine so that what I want to happen is if someone passes in, we're going to create DTOs, or basically models of accepted criteria or accepted properties or variables that are going to be sent to the back end. And what I want to do is, if those variables are not correct, if they don't send to me the correct ones, then I don't want to accept it. I want to catch those errors early. And curly bracket. We'll do this. Var result. We're just gonna automatically send back a new bad request object result. Context.model state, and then return result. And I guess ultimately we could just there might be some logging that we want to put in here to do add some logging. But we don't have to. There's like no requirement to do so. And I forgot a curly bracket in here. There we go. So what this will allow me to do is, one, it'll add all the controllers. So as we drop controllers into our controllers folder, it'll add those in. And then what we'll do is every time we'll set up DTOs, and when I misspelled connection, we'll add DTOs, and if the controller is supposed to receive a particular type of DTO and it doesn't get the correct one, we'll error out. No, I'm not going to add in my authorization just yet. There's a whole bunch of core stuff that we could add in. Where do our build here? I normally personally add in the migrate pieces. So, like I explained before, entity framework, unlike say other ORMs in Node like Sequelize or Mongoose, and I don't know about Python and others, but entity framework does not automatically create the tables for you when you run the application. You can have it do that, but it does not by default. So what you would do is you'd create your migration scripts and then manually run those to have it create. But if, let's say, you're running this on a server somewhere, yes, hopefully you can connect it and run the scripts. But I would rather it just run the migration scripts for me. So that's what I'm going to opt for. Let's add in a couple of other things. So I already have that, but let's go ahead and add that in. So var scope. I don't have anything at the moment that I need to migrate. we're going to do app.services. We're going to create a scope here. And we're going to say our var services is going to be equal to scope dot service provider. And then we're going to try. We're going to take our DB context. And we're going to say services dot get require service. We're going to get our app DB context. Oops. Like it knows that that's what I'm going to do. I don't know why it doesn't do that. And then we're going to run our DB context.database.migrate. So this should run all of our migration scripts. And we're going to catch any exceptions that we run into. Oops. And we're going to log them. And get required service, iLogger. Yep, program. And we are going to actually log it. Logger dot log error. We're going to log the error. And we're going to say an error occurred while migrating the database. And so there's a bunch of different approaches we can take to logging. I'm not doing a lot of logging right now, but once I finish the app, I'll probably do file logging. There's a really, I think, nice library like called, is it log4level? Let's take a look. Log4level C#. C# file logging. Yeah, there's file logging library. Is it inlog? Inlog. Is it inlog? Or is it, there it is, log4, no. Seralog is I think what it is. Yeah, I think it's Seralog. Seralog I think is the one. It's pretty nice. But I've taken a look at some others as well. But I think Seralog's the one that I've used. I've seen inlog as well, but I think it's a preference for people. But there's that. What else are we gonna do? What else do I want to do? I want to use global error handling. And I haven't written my global error handler yet. I will use my authentication and that, and then we'll map our controllers here. I haven't finished creating my controllers. I'll add more of this stuff as I go along. So what else am I going to do? I've created my user, I've created my repository. Now I need the next layer up, so the application layer. And there's no real DTO. So OAuth is going to send me the information as part of the request. Or the front end is going to send it to me as part of the request. But I do need to create the service layer. So we'll do the same thing that I did over here. So we'll do a user service as an interface. And then in the services, we'll do a user service. So for our iUser service, we only have one small thing. And iUser service, iUser repository, there it is. iUser repository, it's pretty much the same thing. I feel kind of weird about it sometimes because it feels like it's a little redundant. And I get it. Other people prefer like a little bit more of a straightforward endpoint. I don't know if much. Wait, hold on, I'm in the wrong file. I get it. It feels a little weird. User service. Yeah, there it is. And then under user service, we make you an iUser service. We paste in that we make you a public async task, and then we bring in the necessary user repository. And then we can just say await user repository dot handle first time login user ID. So that's it. It's pretty much all we have to do for this particular piece. We do have to come back over here to our program and add in it here. So we'll say builder.services.add scoped. Add scoped iUser service user service. Cool. And now lastly we'll do a single controller, which should be pretty simple. Now I'm going to add in a couple pieces that I haven't gone over yet. So user controller. Now normally what I do is I create a base controller that does a bunch of smaller things. Like in my particular instance, since I'm using Auth0, or if you use Incognito, you can have it so that it pulls the user ID out, which I generally tend to do. So that's going to look something along the lines of this. So I would create a base controller here, and I would call you API controller, public. It's going to be an abstract class. And I would call it controller base. Protect it. And what it would do is it would simply get the user ID from our from the token that is sent in, very specifically the bear token. Name identifier dot value, and if string dot is null or white space user ID. And what this does is we also want to catch it. If there's no valid user ID, then there's no reason to go forward. We're actually going to throw an error and say throw new invalid. Yep, we'll put invalid exception. Non-authenticated. And there are a bunch of other options. Is there another one? Authentication. Yeah, let's use this one. Let's use an authentication exception. I like that one a little bit more. I like that one. And finally, if it's not throwing an error, then we're going to return user ID. And so then on our base user controller, or our user controller, we would say, one, we want to inherit iUser service, as in the user service, but also you're now based on base controller. Now we will have access to the user ID. So we'll do, and oh, I forgot a couple of things. So all of my routes, for me at least, are going to require authorization. They're all going to be API controllers. And the route for this is going to be API controller name, meaning that it would look something along the lines of we would say API/user was how you would get to the endpoint. And in my particular instance, it's going to be an HTTP post. A post. We'll log in. And then we'll create our little. We're not going to return anything. So it's going to be an iAction result. And we'll just do our login function or method. Methods inside of classes, functions outside of classes. We don't really have it doing very much, so we will just do an await to the user service, handle first time login, and again, we have the user ID, which we pull from the base controller, and we're just going to return OK. Done. So this creates our controller for us, our user service, so forth and so on. Yeah, that kind of gives us the basis for what I was going to do. I'm not ready to tackle my front end just yet. I usually tackle most of my back end and test it thoroughly. Well, test it quite a bit. I want to say thoroughly. But since I'm here and I already have it, I'll just kind of hurry through a couple of things. I know I'm going to use OAuth. So before my auto mapper and right before my DB connection, this is what I would do. I'd use a singleton for my OAuth settings. Add in my missing reference. And yeah. We want to throw an exception, of course, when there's no OAuth. We've put in this piece. Now for OAuth, it's actually not too bad. It's a pretty simple add to the services. This is what you would add. Now, I did not include my JWT bearer token. So I need to add in this. Give me a second. Let's go over to our NuGet packages. So I need for my API, let's come over here to our manage our NuGet packages. And what I need is the JWT bear, the Microsoft ASP Core Net Authentication JWT bearer one. I don't know what Volo is. Let's go with the Microsoft one. And that's what I need. Let's clear out anything else. I got my Open API. I don't think I need entity for this. I think I might. Let's do entity. Entity framework core. Well, we may not need it. So now that we have it installed, let's go ahead, the bear token that is. So this is what you'll need for OAuth. You'll just give it your domain and your audience. That's all that we need there. What else? If we were going to do some type of cores, which I'm not doing, we could. I already have it doing the migration for me. I don't have it doing any other type of cores at this particular moment. I do want to include global error handling. Now I used, well, a couple things. So I created a global error handler that I will show you in just a moment. We are using HTTP redirection, and I am going to use authentication and authorization. I'm going to put that above my map controllers. So I do have a piece of middleware that I'm using for error handling. And what I want to do is, so for your endpoints, where are we at? For your endpoints, you can wrap these in try catches so that for each specific endpoint, you can try catch, try catch, try catch, try catch. I thought that was a bit of a waste, so I thought the better approach might be to create kind of a middleware that catches it all. And I'm going to call it, it's going to be a generic try catch controller middleware. And all we're going to do there is, again, rather than manually go through it bit by bit by bit, it will catch it. So it's going to be request delegate next. This just allows it to, if it's successful, then it'll just pass through. And then we need to do this public static class. We'll call you generic try catch controller middleware. It's long capital middleware extensions. So it'll extend the main one, and then we'll call it public static void use global error handling. And you can expand this and add in more as you need it. This application builder, and what we're going to do is add in builder dot use middleware, and the middleware we're using is the generic try catch. The generic try catch. I need to finish writing it though and not mess that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to try for every endpoint. Come on now, work with me. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Public async ask invoke, and we want to do HTTP context. And what we want to do is we want to try each of the endpoints. So try it first. That way it's automatically wrapped in try catch. And if there are any problems, then catch them down here with an exception E or EX or whatever you want to call your exception. We potentially want to log the exception here, which we will at one point, but for right now, we'll just take the response and send it back. And this is not by any means perfect or all-encompassing. This is just kind of what I did to do this. Again, I don't think it is by any means all-encompassing. Status code. And I have a generic status code that I'm sending back of 500 internal error. And we could, of course, send back something far more responsive, and we do. But I am choosing to go this particular route at this point. Again, it's by no means all-encompassing, and I will probably refine it towards the end. Error handling is kind of huge, I think, and very important in terms of development. So you'll spend a lot of time on error handling, despite what people may think, at least initially. Yeah. All right. This should handle our generic error handler. Oh, no, we're about to use you right now. So we'll come back over to here. And look, global error handler. Let's use you. And now you're used. The middleware says you're used. All right. For program here. And then, of course, add in whatever cores you wanna add in. So this kind of gives me my first generic endpoint. I need to connect in my database settings, which I haven't done. I'd put that in my app settings. I have nothing there right now. And this is where you'd also put in your OAuth or your auth0 pieces, something along the lines of this. So in my particular instance, I created an OAuth class where I would read in my audience, and which I clearly misspelled, and my domain here, and then if I have any cores policies that I want to invoke, I might put them here. And then lastly, I might want to do connection strings. And I think I called my connection string real estate connection. So this is where all this would kind of go in your app settings. And this just kind of gives you a start. Again, it's by no means all encompassing, and there's a lot more stuff that you can do. But this would kind of give you the start for what you wanted to do. So I'll kind of finish it off there for right now. I don't really have anything else at the moment. I think I'm going to try to take the weekend to relax, kind of get some more rest because I'm real tired right now. And then I think I'll be able to tackle more of my reverse bullet hell on Monday. I do have a better direction for it, though. I'm going to add some maps, and I'm going to have it so that those maps, that within those maps I can find, I'm going to create rooms. So there'll be like, I don't know how many levels just yet, but each of them will have rooms, and you have to survive in that room with more and more difficult enemies. And as you get through each room, it'll unlock the door. If you don't survive, then the room stays locked. So that will be the challenge. It'll still be a reverse bullet hell, but you'll have a whole room to move around in. And as you unlock it, you'll get access to more and more rooms that you can kind of explore. And I'll leave it so that there's the quick exit, and then there's, I guess, to explore. And so on each of the levels, you'll start to get probably various goods. So you'll kind of get treasures or prizes or something for each level. So anyway, not each level. So yeah, each level will have various prizes and or treasures. You can either just level by killing monsters by itself, but the treasures on each of the levels will be unique. And the question is do you want to, go for those, or do you just want to, go without getting them? So, all right. Yeah, I'm going to finish off there for this evening. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry it's kind of short. Like I said, I'm just a little zapped, a little tired. I'm going to get some rest after this. But this was kind of the direction I was going to head anyway. And yeah, that's it for me for right now. Um, oh yeah, this one specific ports. So for right after my authority, I want to run on ports 5000 and 5001. And you could put this inside, and I probably would. I'd put it inside your app settings. Something along the lines of uh, server ports or something. And come back over here and grab you. Then I'd come back over here. And I would say here. Um, and then over here on program, I could say var use URLs is going to be equal to builder.configuration got get section, and I called this section server ports. Server ports. Yeah. Dot get. It's a string array. And yep, we could just literally use you right in here. And we can do this. Do this. If we can just throw new. We'll say server ports cannot be null. So that will stop that. Or that works too. So there we go. So that will put it on ports. No chorus policy just yet because I want to test it. And then yeah. All right. Like I said, I'm gonna call it a night there. It is now 8:38 p.m. on February 9th, 2024. Thank you very much for tuning in.